Moments ago, the royal family confirmed what many feared, but no one expected. Prince Andrew, once a commanding figure in the monarchy, is now facing a devastating personal battle that changes everything. This isn't a scandal, it's something far more final. For years, he disappeared from public life. Now, we know why. What you're about to hear is a story of isolation, illness, and a royal reckoning unlike anything the palace has ever faced. The sudden statement that stunned the nation. On the cold morning of October 2nd, 2025, a quiet ripple of dread passed through British media circles. The royal family had released a short, 137-word statement via the official Buckingham Palace press office, not Clarence House or Kensington Palace. That alone signaled seriousness. The language was terse and formal. It is with deepest regret that we confirm the news regarding His Royal Highness Prince Andrew, Duke of York. No details, no quotes, no reassurances. This was not a health update crafted to soothe the public. It was the kind of announcement typically reserved for life-altering news. And it came with one very clear message. Something irreversible had occurred behind palace walls. Within 10 minutes, every major UK outlet, BBC, ITV, The Telegraph, picked up the story and blasted it across headlines. A special bulletin interrupted morning programming on Sky News, while international networks like CNN and France 24 quickly followed. The public, already aware that Prince Andrew had largely disappeared from the spotlight since 2022, wasn't prepared for what this tone suggested. Royal correspondents who had covered Andrew since his days as a naval helicopter pilot in the Falklands War, 1982, appeared visibly shaken on air. This wasn't just a scandal or political damage control. This felt permanent. Unusually, there were no statements from senior royals, not even from King Charles, nor from Andrew's daughters Princess Beatrice or Princess Eugenie, who are typically quick to defend their father. That silence only deepened the public's anxiety. Commentators noticed that the palace used words like transition, regret, and privacy with surgical precision, avoiding any medical terminology or reference to Andrew's long absence from public life. By midday, speculation had reached fever pitch. Was this death? A coma? A secret hospitalization? None of those questions were answered, and the palace offered no follow-up. Behind the scenes, insiders would later confirm that the royal family had spent over 3 weeks drafting the wording of this announcement. King Charles III, known for preferring strategic transparency since ascending the throne in September 2022, had personally signed off on the final version. The plan had been to release the news on a quiet news day, and October 2nd, a Wednesday with no major public engagements, fit that bill. But if they hoped for a soft landing, they underestimated the public's hunger for answers. The digital statement did not quell curiosity. It supercharged it. As the media frenzy intensified, whispers began leaking from inside Windsor's tight inner circle. The palace had said little, but trusted sources were already piecing together the reality behind the royal facade. This wasn't a death or an accident. It was something more drawn out, more heartbreaking, and undeniably final. Soon, the devastating truth would be revealed. Prince Andrew was not dying, but he was fading. And what followed wasn't just a change in title or status. It was the beginning of the end. The diagnosis that changed everything. By the evening of October 2nd, 2025, the first whispers had crystallized into a grim picture. Leaked by a trusted insider to The Times, it was revealed that Prince Andrew, aged 65, had been privately diagnosed with a degenerative neurological disease. Though the palace refused to confirm specifics, sources close to the family stated that the illness was identified in early spring 2025, following a string of unexplained absences from royal events. The condition, reportedly similar to Parkinson's or early-onset ALS, had begun affecting his motor control, balance, and even his ability to speak for prolonged periods. What made the revelation so devastating was its finality. According to medical advisors briefed by the family, Prince Andrew's condition was described as progressive, irreversible, and significantly life-altering. He had been undergoing private treatment at the Royal Lodge in Windsor, supported by a minimal staff and frequently visited by his daughters, Princess Beatrice, age 37, and Princess Eugenie, age 35. Insiders reported that as early as August 2025, he had begun experiencing noticeable tremors and episodes of speech delay during private conversations, alarming changes for a man once known for his public confidence. The royal family's decision to release the statement came only after Andrew's doctors advised that he would no longer be able to carry out even limited ceremonial duties. He would not be returning to public life, not for Remembrance Sunday, not for Trooping the Color, not even for private charity events he once supported. His remaining royal patronages, numbering 11 as of 2024, were immediately and quietly reassigned. A senior palace aide reportedly said, "There's no roadmap for this. We've never had a royal retreat quite like this before." For many, it marked not just the end of a royal career, but the closure of a long and controversial chapter in monarchy history. And yet, in the face of illness, something shifted. Public sentiment, once hardened by scandal, began to show faint traces of sympathy. While critics remained vocal, describing the diagnosis as a convenient distraction from his past, many others were moved by the sheer human toll of his condition. Images of Andrew being supported by aides inside Royal Lodge, his once forceful gait now unsteady, painted a very different picture than the man last seen during Queen Elizabeth II's funeral in September 2022. Illness, unlike scandal, demanded a new kind of reaction, one grounded in compassion, not just judgment. But understanding the emotional weight of this moment requires stepping back. Prince Andrew's illness did not occur in a vacuum. His fall from grace had already been unfolding for years. To many, he had disappeared from public life long before this diagnosis. And so, the question on everyone's mind was no longer just about his health, but about what this meant for a man whose legacy had already been severely tarnished by scandal, disgrace, and one of the most infamous interviews in royal history. From palace pride to public pariah. Rewind to November 2019. Prince Andrew sat across from Emily Maitlis in that now infamous BBC Newsnight interview, a moment meant to clear his name that instead ignited a firestorm. When he claimed he had no recollection of meeting Virginia Giuffre, and bizarrely cited a trip to Pizza Express in Woking as his alibi, the damage was instant. The clip went viral within 24 hours. Public trust plummeted, and palace officials scrambled. By the end of that same week, Andrew had stepped back from royal duties, a term that would define his position for the next 6 years. His ties to Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted sex offender who died under suspicious circumstances in August 2019, had always been controversial. But after the Newsnight debacle, they became career-ending. Over the next 2 years, Andrew was stripped of all military titles, royal patronages, and the use of His Royal Highness in any official capacity. In January 2022, Queen Elizabeth II formally distanced the monarchy from him, marking one of the harshest internal reprimands in royal history. Andrew settled out of court with Geoffrey in February 2022 for a reported £12 million, further cementing public perception of guilt, despite the legal denial of wrongdoing. From 2022 onward, Andrew became a ghost in his own house. Living at the Royal Lodge, a 30-room mansion in Windsor Great Park, he was rarely seen in public. Though not evicted, his role was functionally over. He appeared only during family funerals, coronations, and select private events. When he did show up, like during King Charles III's coronation in May 2023, he wore civilian clothes and did not appear on the palace balcony. His public visibility was as tightly controlled as his finances, now monitored under the king's slimmed-down monarchy model. Throughout this exile, his daughters remained his most loyal allies. Beatrice and Eugenie maintained contact and occasionally defended him privately, but they kept their public lives distanced. Beatrice continued low-profile royal engagements, while Eugenie relocated briefly to Portugal in 2024 with her husband Jack Brooksbank and son August. Their silence was strategic, a way to protect themselves while still remaining present. Yet even their careful navigation of the scandal wasn't enough to cleanse the family name. For the public, Prince Andrew remained the royal who had fallen farthest, a man whose title became synonymous with disgrace. But now, with a confirmed diagnosis and permanent retreat from public life, the story of Prince Andrew enters a new and unexpected chapter. His health has rewritten the terms of his legacy, not erasing the past, but softening the tone of its final act. What had once been a conversation about scandal is now becoming a conversation about humanity, decline, and the fragility of even the most privileged lives. And behind palace walls, the implications are as emotional as they are strategic. Timing the truth. The royal family's decision to release the statement on October 2, 2025, was no accident. According to insiders at Buckingham Palace, the announcement had been delayed for nearly 4 months, while senior aides debated how to manage the timing. The diagnosis had reportedly been confirmed as early as June, but the family, particularly King Charles III, was deeply concerned about public reaction. Andrew's name remains a lightning rod, and palace strategists feared that disclosing the illness too soon would spark cynicism, not compassion. Every word in the official release had been scrutinized. Some phrases were rewritten 15 times before Charles personally approved the final version. The timing also aligned with a rare gap in royal scheduling. With no major engagements planned for the first week of October and Princess Catherine still recovering from her surgery, the royal spotlight was subdued. This gave the family room to break the news without competing headlines. It also gave Prince William, whose relationship with Andrew is known to be strained, a diplomatic buffer. According to royal aides, William had warned against releasing the news during Prince George's school term or before Remembrance Sunday, fearing the optics would overshadow key national symbols. But timing was also dictated by mounting pressure. In the weeks leading up to the announcement, journalists from The Guardian, The Times, and even international outlets like Reuters had begun investigating Andrew's absence. He had missed 3 major private family events since July, including Princess Anne's 74th birthday celebration. With paparazzi catching fewer and fewer glimpses of him at Royal Lodge, rumors swirled that he had been hospitalized or quietly exiled. The palace realized that if they didn't release the news, someone else would. And that, they feared, would unleash another round of uncontrolled scandal. Finally, the illness gave the palace an opportunity, one they hadn't had in years. It allowed King Charles to formally and permanently remove Andrew from the public narrative without accusations of cruelty. No more debates about returning patronages, no more questions about his security detail, no need to awkwardly exclude him from balcony appearances. The health diagnosis was tragic, but it created a clean end. As one senior royal staffer told the Daily Mail, this wasn't just timing, it was closure disguised as compassion. Behind the timing and the strategy lies something far more personal: the human reaction within the royal family itself. Illness touches everyone, even those born into crowns and castles. And while public messaging was tightly managed, emotions inside the palace were not. The reaction to Prince Andrew's condition revealed deep family rifts, lingering tensions, and a surprising degree of sadness, even from those who once demanded his permanent exile. This wasn't just about reputation anymore. It was about reckoning, responsibility, and the quiet unraveling of royal relationships. The royal family's silent reckoning. Inside the walls of Windsor Castle and Clarence House, the announcement triggered a wave of internal reckoning. King Charles, who had spent years navigating the fallout from his brother's scandals, was reportedly somber when briefed on the final diagnosis in late August 2025. Though the two have had limited personal contact since 2020, Charles made a discreet visit to Royal Lodge just days before the statement was released. According to sources, their private conversation lasted under 45 minutes, with Charles offering quiet condolences but reaffirming that Andrew would remain fully retired from public life. Prince William's reaction was more restrained. Known to have long viewed Andrew as a reputational risk, William reportedly welcomed the finality of the announcement. He was briefed on the illness 2 weeks in advance, but chose not to comment publicly or privately. Insiders say that while William expressed quiet sympathy, he remained focused on protecting the long-term image of the crown. In 2023, he had personally intervened to block Andrew's attendance at 2 high-profile events. Now, with Andrew permanently sidelined, William has turned his attention to Prince George's gradual public introduction and Catherine's ongoing recovery. Perhaps the most emotional responses came from Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, Andrew's daughters. Both were reportedly devastated by the diagnosis, though unsurprised. Eugenie, who had moved briefly to Lisbon in 2024 with her family, was spotted returning to the UK immediately after the October announcement. She was seen leaving Royal Lodge in tears, declining to speak to press. Beatrice, meanwhile, cancelled 2 scheduled appearances that week and entered what aides described as a period of personal retreat. Despite their loyalty, even they were said to be privately acknowledging the reality that their father's decline would be long, quiet, and irreversible. Other royals have remained silent. Queen Camilla is said to have maintained distance from Andrew for years and supported Charles's approach to handling the situation. Extended family, including Zara Tindall and Lady Louise Windsor, have neither commented nor visited. Within the palace, the atmosphere is described as quietly resigned. Many longtime staff reportedly expected this chapter to close with scandal, not sickness. As one aide had put it, "We knew this day would come, but not like this." If the royal family's response was layered in emotion and political caution, the public's reaction was even more unpredictable. Britain had not forgotten the scandals, the interviews, or the court settlements. And yet, the announcement of a debilitating illness struck a different chord. As the story spread across media outlets and social platforms, it sparked debates not just about Prince Andrew, but about justice, memory, and the limits of public forgiveness. Sympathy was on the table, but so was suspicion. Sympathy or strategy? Within 24 hours of the royal announcement, public conversation fractured across headlines and hashtags. Mainstream outlets like BBC News, The Telegraph, and ITV led with dignified coverage, focusing on the language of the palace's statement and Andrew's complete withdrawal from public life. But elsewhere, a different tone emerged. The Daily Mail, The Sun, and social media users questioned the announcement's timing. Was it sincere, or a calculated attempt to humanize a disgraced royal? On X, formerly Twitter, hashtags like #PrinceAndrew, #RoyalRetreat, and #WindsorCoverUp trended for 48 hours straight. The split in public reaction was sharp. Many commenters shared personal experiences of dealing with degenerative diseases like Parkinson's or ALS, offering sympathy regardless of Andrew's past. One viral post read, "I don't excuse what he did, but I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy." On the other side, critics called the announcement PR damage control and the final cover story. Public trust in the monarchy, already fragile following Harry and Meghan's 2021 Oprah interview and Charles's spending controversies in 2023, seemed to take another hit. Podcasts, TikTok creators, and royal watchers jumped into the fray. Popular royal podcast Palace Brief released an emergency episode titled Sympathy or Spin? The Andrew Announcement. Within 36 hours, it had been streamed over 400,000 times. On YouTube, independent journalists replayed Andrew's 2019 Newsnight interview alongside the illness statement, asking whether this diagnosis changed anything. Even prominent figures like Piers Morgan and Emily Maitlis weighed in. Maitlis, the interviewer from that pivotal moment, tweeted simply, "A sad ending to a complicated chapter." What's clear is that this announcement didn't erase the past. It reframed it. For some, Andrew is now a figure of tragedy. For others, he remains an emblem of royal privilege and unresolved accountability. And for many, the truth lies in both camps. As October 2025 came to a close, the British public found itself caught between two powerful narratives. One of justice long denied, and another of a man, flawed and frail, facing the inevitable decline of his final days. Erasing a prince. While the emotional reaction to Prince Andrew's condition dominated headlines, the royal household moved swiftly behind the scenes to finalize the practical fallout. Though Andrew retained his title as Duke of York, senior palace sources confirmed by October 5, 2025, that discussions were underway to begin a quiet retirement of his remaining honors. These included his status as Knight of the Garter, which he had held since 2006, and his honorary roles in 6 UK regiments, all of which were now being reassigned. There would be no formal ceremony, just a slow, calculated erasure. Security was another urgent matter. Since stepping back from duties in 2019, Andrew had continued to receive 24/7 police protection, estimated to cost the British taxpayer £3 million per year. Now, with his public role officially ended and his illness limiting mobility, royal advisors were reassessing the necessity of such coverage. Reports suggested that his Royal Lodge residence, a 30-room estate in Windsor Great Park, may be converted into a trust-controlled property or repurposed for future working royals, particularly as King Charles III continues to streamline the monarchy's financial footprint. Financial support for Andrew's care has also shifted. He no longer receives money from the sovereign grant, and his legal fees, especially the £12 million Giuffre settlement in 2022, were partially funded through Queen Elizabeth II's private estate. With mounting healthcare costs, responsibility now falls on private assets, including inheritance funds, discretionary royal trust accounts, and possibly discreet support from Charles's Duchy of Lancaster income. Any further public funding would risk igniting renewed controversy, something the palace is determined to avoid. Even Andrew's digital and ceremonial presence is vanishing. His name was removed from 4 remaining patronage websites by October 7th, and palace staff were instructed to redirect any inquiries about the Duke of York to a general royal communications line. Aides described the effort not as punishment, but as permanent closure. There would be no comeback attempt, no gradual rehabilitation, no special appearances. The message was clear. The prince had not died, but his public identity had. This was the final administrative act of a royal life quietly ending in the shadows. With his titles fading and his public role erased, the monarchy's next challenge is managing what this moment means for their future. Prince Andrew is no longer a central figure, but the legacy of his scandals, and now his illness, casts a long shadow over how the institution handles shame, suffering, and succession. In a family defined by image, lineage, and history, how they close the book on Andrew will define how they weather the next era of royal scrutiny. What this means for the crown. The announcement of Prince Andrew's retreat has accelerated the royal family's long-term restructuring. Since King Charles III's coronation in May 2023, the crown has leaned into a streamlined monarchy model. Fewer senior royals, fewer public expenses, and tighter control of appearances. With Andrew now officially out, this model gains clarity. There's no ambiguity left about his role. He is not working, not honorary, not even ceremonial. He is, as one aide described, a royal in name only. And that opens space for the institution to redirect attention to its future players. Prince William, now fully established as the heir apparent, has embraced a forward-facing strategy. He's focused on environmental diplomacy, mental health advocacy, and preparing Prince George, now 12 years old, for public life. The absence of scandal-tainted figures like Andrew makes this task easier. At a press event in Leeds on October 10, 2025, William avoided all mention of his uncle, but emphasized dignity in service and modern royal responsibility, phrases widely interpreted as veiled references to the week's events. It was subtle but unmistakable. The monarchy is moving on. Princess Catherine, despite recovering from abdominal surgery earlier this year, has also stepped back into select public duties. Her visit to St. Mary's Hospital in Paddington drew headlines for her grace under pressure and drew contrast to the years of drama surrounding Andrew and other controversial royals. With Catherine, William, and their children at the forefront, the monarchy is crafting a narrative of resilience, one rooted not in scandal, but in quiet, stable continuity. The optics matter, especially in the aftermath of Andrew's long, painful fall. Still, the palace remains cautious. Behind the firm exterior lies a family that has weathered decades of crisis. Prince Andrew's downfall, from decorated war hero in 1982's Falklands conflict to global pariah in the 2020s, is a cautionary tale about unchecked privilege. It's also a reminder that royal image is fragile and legacy is not guaranteed. In sidelining Andrew without cruelty, the monarchy hopes to show strength and compassion. But they must walk carefully, because every decision they make about him is being measured against a century's worth of royal precedent. But no transition is complete without the public's verdict, and Prince Andrew's story remains a divisive one. For every royal watcher who now sees him through the lens of illness and isolation, there are others who remember only the scandals, settlements, and silence. With the final chapter now unfolding, the question of legacy looms large. Will Andrew be remembered as a disgraced royal who disappeared, or as a man brought low by his own choices and finally left alone with his consequences. The legacy of a fallen prince. Prince Andrew's place in royal history is already complicated, but now it may be quietly cementing into something more tragic than scandalous. For decades, he was known as Queen Elizabeth II's favorite son, celebrated for his military service, charisma, and confidence. But after 2010, when his association with Jeffrey Epstein grew public, the tone changed. By 2019, it collapsed entirely. What was once a tale of royal promise turned into a cautionary saga, dominated by allegations, lawsuits, and relentless media scrutiny. Now, in 2025, his illness reframes that story, but it does not erase it. Historians are already adjusting their narratives. Several royal biographers, including Robert Hardman and Penny Junor, are reportedly updating upcoming editions of their books to reflect the latest chapter. The illness adds human weight to a man many viewed as irredeemable. And while public sympathy may be growing, the underlying facts remain. The Newsnight interview, the civil settlement, and the loss of military titles are not vanishing from the record. Instead, they are being joined by images of a frail man living in semi-seclusion, supported only by 2 daughters and a rotating team of nurses. For some members of the public, this moment provides closure. Not justice, perhaps, but an ending. Prince Andrew will not be celebrated in royal ceremonies, nor lionized in national memory. He will not have a state funeral, should he pass during Charles's reign. Instead, sources confirm that private funeral arrangements are already being discussed, involving a modest service at St. George's Chapel, far from the pomp of royal tradition. In the eyes of the Crown, this is not a punishment. It is preservation. Quiet dignity in place of scandal's echo. Still, the deeper question remains. Can legacy ever be softened by decline? In Andrew's case, the monarchy appears to be attempting exactly that. By emphasizing his illness, his isolation, and the steadfast loyalty of Princess Eugenie and Princess Beatrice, the institution is inviting a shift in tone. Not forgiveness, not redemption, but perhaps a version of sympathy. As October 2025 closes, Prince Andrew's public chapter may be ending, but the debate over how he will be remembered is only just beginning. The legacy may be taking shape, but the palace's work is not yet done. With Prince Andrew permanently removed from public life, the royal family must now focus on maintaining public trust, stabilizing internal roles, and shielding future generations from scandal's fallout. What comes next will test the monarchy's ability to balance compassion with caution, because while the prince may be fading, the shadow he cast still lingers over everything the crown must now protect. What the monarchy must do now. With Prince Andrew's permanent retreat confirmed as of October 2025, the royal family stands at a defining crossroads. This is no longer just a matter of damage control. It's about preserving the monarchy's stability, image, and future relevance. Senior palace advisors have already drafted contingency plans for the months ahead. If Andrew's condition worsens, a second statement may be issued, though only under pressure. Over-disclosure risks scrutiny. Under-disclosure risks conspiracy. Either way, the palace cannot afford another PR collapse like the one triggered by Harry and Meghan's 2021 interview, or Charles's 2023 funding revelations. Internally, a critical decision looms: how to handle Prince Andrew's funeral. While he remains alive, palace courtiers have reportedly proposed a private ceremony at St. George's Chapel, with attendance limited to immediate family, military representatives, and no state honors. A funeral on the scale of Prince Philip's 2021 event is considered unlikely. Sources say King Charles III has personally requested that all planning remain off public record for now. Any televised tribute, memorial, or public statement would draw renewed attention to Andrew's controversies and risk reopening old wounds that the monarchy is desperate to seal. Meanwhile, the public-facing royals are being repositioned. Prince William and Princess Catherine are expected to increase their visibility in early 2026, with planned appearances in Scotland, Canada, and Wales. These events are meant to refocus attention on legacy building, charitable efforts, and the monarchy's global relevance. Prince George, now 12, may also accompany his parents to select engagements as part of his quiet public introduction. The goal is clear: shift the narrative. Let the past fade. Protect the future, and ensure that the monarchy's next chapter begins not with scandal, but with stability. Finally, the institution must confront a moral question. Can the royal family express compassion without being accused of enabling? In Prince Andrew's case, every gesture, every photo, word, and silence is examined through that lens. The palace's balancing act must now be exact, dignified enough to acknowledge illness, restrained enough not to appear apologetic. The enduring lesson from this chapter is not just about Andrew. It's about accountability, image, and the weight of royal bloodlines. And if the monarchy wants to survive another century, it must learn to move forward without erasing the past or repeating it. Prince Andrew's story is ending, not with exile or trial, but with illness and retreat. And now, the royal family must write its own next chapter. What they do next, how they honor, distance, acknowledge, or ignore, will shape not just how Andrew is remembered, but how the monarchy itself endures. Because in this institution, no scandal fades without scars, and no legacy, no matter how privileged, is safe from the quiet, unrelenting judgment of history.